Every victory you seek begins with a war you cannot see, your mind. Master that battlefield, and nothing outside can truly overpower you. You wake and the world greets you with problems wrapped in noise. Bills, messages, obligations, all press upon the surface of your life. Yet beneath that pressure is another theater, entirely the theater of the mind. It is here the real movement begins. It is here that destinies are drafted and derailed long before the world knows anything of it. When you understand this, your perspective changes. You stop fighting the immediate skirmishes of a chaotic day and begin to steward the deeper terrain that makes those skirmishes possible. The mind is a battlefield not because it is violent by nature, but because it is generative. Every thought plants a seed. Some seeds grow into weeds of anxiety and distraction, others into pillars of courage and clarity. The work of mastery is to choose what seeds you water. That is the fundamental business of inner sovereignty, deciding what mental states are allowed to take root, which narratives are tended, and which impulses are quelled or repurposed. Why is this war invisible? Because we have been trained to worship outcomes and ignore causes. We celebrate achievements without crediting the hours of interior discipline that produced them. We vilify failure without asking what thoughts and habits quietly supported it. This inversion protects the mind from honest inspection. It lets avoidance pass for business and fear masquerade as prudence. To win on this field, you must become curious about cause. Ask yourself, what repeated stories inhabit my day? Which unexamined assumptions guide my choices? Where does my attention drift when I am asked for decisive presence? These questions are not abstract. They are diagnostic tools. They reveal the weak points in your interior fortification, a tendency to catastrophize, a habit of shrinking to avoid risk, a moral compromise that racks the conscience like a slow tax. There is a moral dimension too. The mind is not merely a private engine, it is the font of action that touches others. A mind that habitually fears will produce small, hearted decisions. A mind that practices generosity will plant generosity in the field of life. Your inner war is never only about you. Your inner discipline is a service to relationships, jobs, and communities because the quality of your thinking is the quality of your contributions. Lastly, accept that this battle is not a one-off. It is a long vigilance. There will be seasons where you falter and seasons where you stand taller. The work is practice, not perfection. The mind becomes a reliable ally when you learn to observe its moves, to deliberate about your responses, and to return again and again to the center of intentional presence. Win this lesser war, and the outer ones line up differently, less chaotic, less reactive, more purposeful. The visible victories are afterthoughts. The primary battle is the daily, quiet decision to govern the mind that births them. Consider the mind as built, not born. From childhood, we inherit materials, narratives from family, axioms from culture, habits acquired for survival. Over decades, these materials accumulate into an architecture. Brick by brick, thought constructs rooms where some parts of you live comfortably and other parts are crowded into closets. The first act of mastery is to map that architecture, to see what walls are load-bearing, what rooms are empty, what corridors lead only to panic. Beliefs are the bricks. They are statements you've rehearsed and now treat as laws. I am not enough. The world is dangerous. Success costs my relationships. These beliefs shape what information you will accept and what you will discount. They bias attention toward confirming data and build interpretive scaffolds that make anxiety or courage more likely. To remodel, you must interrogate these bricks. How old are they? Who set them? Do they still serve life, or do they fossilize the past into present limitation? Stories are the wiring. The particular narrative you tell about your life, the story of a perpetual victim, a long-suffering saint, an unluckily cursed person, wires energy into predictable channels. The story explains and then prescribes, If you are the victim, you know where to expect harm and how to respond. Rewriting stories is not denial, it is reallocation of energy toward narrative shapes that allow agency. Practice telling an alternate story, one that includes contingency, learning, and agency. Tell it often until the wiring picks up the new pattern. Habits are the plumbing. Small, repeated acts root attention and decision energy. They make the everyday possible. But habits are double-edged. When designed well, regular sleep, focus work windows, repair conversations, they sustain mastery. When designed poorly, compulsive scrolling, avoidance rituals, rumination, they leak vital resources. Habit change is often less dramatic than we wish, it is incremental. Replace one ritual at a time, pair a new habit with a reliable cue. Track fidelity. Over months, the plumbing changes the whole house. Architecture requires ongoing maintenance. Schedule audits. Once a month, review a rule you live by and ask who benefits from it now. Name one belief you will test against evidence. Take a habit and tighten its execution by 10%. These tiny renovations add up. Without such maintenance, even strong walls succumb to water and time. Finally, consider design ethics. What you build in your mind shapes the reality you participate in. A mind structured by fear will interpret complexity as threat and will build systems of avoidance around it. A mind structured by curiosity will keep corridors open and invite repair. Architect with intention. Choose the materials that fit the life you want, and do the slow work of reconstruction with the discipline of a craftsman. Sand the life you live tomorrow was designed today. Inspect the blueprint of your mind and begin the careful work of remodeling. Consider the mind as built, not born. From childhood, we inherit materials, narratives from family, axioms from culture, habits acquired for survival. Over decades, these materials accumulate into an architecture. Brick by brick, a thought constructs rooms where some parts of you live comfortably and other parts are crowded into closets. The first act of mastery is to map that architecture, to see what walls are low, bearing, what rooms are empty, what corridors lead only to panic. Beliefs are the bricks. They are statements you've rehearsed and now treat as laws. I am not enough. The world is dangerous. Success costs my relationships. These beliefs shape what information you will accept and what you will discount. They bias attention toward confirming data and build interpretive scaffolds that make anxiety or courage more likely. To remodel, you must interrogate these bricks. How old are they? Who set them? Do they still serve life, or do they fossilize the past into present limitation? Stories are the wiring. The particular narrative you tell about your life, the story of a perpetual victim, a long-suffering saint, an unluckily cursed person, wires energy into predictable channels. The story explains and then prescribes. If you are the victim, you know where to expect harm and how to respond. Rewriting stories is not denial, it is relocation of energy toward narrative shapes that allow agency. Practice telling an alternate story, one that includes contingency, learning, and agency. Tell it often until the wiring picks up the new pattern. Habits are the plumbing. Small, repeated acts route attention and decision energy. They make the everyday possible. But habits are double-edged. When designed well, regular sleep, focused work windows, repair conversations, they sustain mastery. When designed poorly, compulsive scrolling, avoidance rituals, rumination, they leak vital resources. Habit change is often less dramatic than we wish. It is incremental. Replace one ritual at a time. Pair a new habit with a reliable cue. Track fidelity. Over months, the plumbing changes the whole house. Architecture requires ongoing maintenance. Schedule audits. Once a month, review a rule you live by and ask who benefits from it now. Name one belief you will test against evidence. Take a habit and tighten its execution by 10%. These tiny renovations add up. Without such maintenance, even strong walls succumb to water and time. Finally, consider design ethics. What you build in your mind shapes the reality you participate in. A mind structured by fear will interpret complexity as threat and will build systems of avoidance around it. A mind structured by curiosity will keep corridors open and invite repair. Architect with intention. Choose the materials that fit the life you want and do the slow work of reconstruction with the discipline of a craftsman. The life you live tomorrow was designed today. Inspect the blueprint of your mind and begin the careful work of remodeling. If the mind is a battlefield, you are its commander. Command needs training. 3 capacities form the core of that command: attention, will, and intention. Attention aligns perception. Will executes against friction. Intention provides the map that links acts to meaning. Together, they transform scattered impulses into coherent strategy. Attention is a muscle that must be exercised. Begin with micro habits, short blocks of focus with clear outcomes, the practice of labeling distractions, and rituals for transitions. When you lose attention, don't moralize, record the interruption, note the trigger, and return. The incremental strengthening of attention multiplies capacity. Longer stretches of focused work, clearer perception under stress, less reactivity in relationships. Will is the capacity to enact decisions despite resistance. Will is not brute force, it is practiced resistance management. Use small commitments to build it. A 30-day practice, a daily 5-minute devotion to a craft, a consistent apology habit. Each fulfilled promise to yourself increases neural credibility. Your brain begins to trust you, which lowers alarm when larger commitments appear. Intention is the North Star. Without reflection, your will becomes aimless energy. Intention translates broad values into specific aims. Today, my intention is to attend to one difficult conversation with curiosity. Or, my intention this month is to finish a paper. Intentions should be stated, written, and revisited. They orient the attention, will complex toward patterns that produce real change. Training the commander also requires tactical humility. Leadership over oneself is iterative. Start with small victories and scale. Use feedback loops set in action. Measure outcome, adjust. When you miss, repair quickly. Repair is the sign of durable will. The ability not to dramatize failure, but to correct with clarity. There are also moral disciplines. Decide the character traits you will protect: generosity, honesty, patience, and let them govern tactical choices. A commander without ethics becomes tyrannical. A commander grounded in values creates trustworthy power. Finally, cultivate symbolic acts that strengthen identity: a morning declaration, a physical posture ritual, or a simple object that cues the commander's presence. Symbols matter because they bridge brain and heart, making the internal capacities more reliable under duress. Closing line for this section: train attention, temper will, and bind both to intention. Become the commander your life needs, and the battlefield loses its terror. War is won by maneuver as much as by strategy. On the battlefield of the mind, tactics are your daily tools, the rituals that orient you, the language you use to narrate yourself, and the boundaries that preserve your line of advance. Tactics are not glamorous, they are grounded, repeatable, and quietly cumulative. Rituals stabilize the nervous system. A morning sequence. Light, breath, brief writing, then focused work, signals to your body and mind that you are entering a domain of purpose. Rituals need not be long. Their power is in faithful repetition. Anchor them to concrete cues: a specific song, the same chair, or the opening of a window. These anchors create neural habits that resist situational pressure. Language is the map by which you steer meaning. Speak with specificity. Replace vague self-criticism with precise observations. I felt fear in the meeting. Instead of, I'm bad at public speaking. Use future, directed language to program action. I will make one outreach this afternoon, rather than, I should probably do that sometime. Also, craft affirmations that are tactical, not magical. I practice attention for 20 minutes today is more actionable than I am confident. Boundaries are your field lines. They protect attention and energy. Learn to say no with brevity and respect. Set temporal boundaries, office hours, device-free dinners, and relational boundaries, how you allow people to speak to you and the demands you will accept. Boundaries are not walls, they are clarifying measures that preserve capacity for what matters. Another tactic is micro-repair. When you slip, have a short set of corrective actions, a breathing reset, a short apology, a pivot to corrective task. Repair prevents small failures from metastasizing. Keep a simple repair kit of 3 to 5 actions that restore alignment quickly. Finally, practice strategic disengagement. Not every battlefield merits engagement. Learn to audit worthiness, invest selectively. Energy is finite. A commander disperses resources with care. Tactical withdrawal is not cowardice, it is prudence. Small rituals, exact language, and clear boundaries compose the tactical repertoire. Practice them until they are second nature, and the daily battles turn into quiet, inevitable victories. Chaos will come. Plans collide with reality, people disappoint, markets shift, bodies ail. The real test of command is not when weather is calm, but when the sky breaks. Resilience is the capacity to absorb disturbance and to continue with integrity. It is cultivated, not innate. Start with physiological anchors. Under stress, breath is primary. Learn a simple regulatory breath pattern, a longer exhale, a paused reprise, and use it as the first ritual in any stressful moment. Movement, short walks, grounding posture, releases accumulated arousal. Sleep and nourishment are non-negotiable foundations. Neglect these and your capacity to recover diminishes. Second, cultivate narrative resilience. The stories you tell about setbacks shape your recovery. Replace catastrophic narratives with interpretive frames that emphasize learning and agency. This failed because X, next time we will try Y. Narrative reframing reduces rumination and directs energy to corrective action. Third, practice anticipatory rehearsals. Imagine potential disruptions and run short scenarios of how you would respond. This mental rehearsal primes the nervous system and shortens the time between shock and effective response. The commander who has practiced crisis responses behaves with steadier hands. Fourth, nourish social repair networks. You will be less resilient if you face storms alone. Keep a small group who know how to support you practically and morally. People who will call with calm advice, who will hold a space for repair, who will not join in panic. Reciprocity matters. Do for them what they will do for you. Fifth, adopt micro rituals of restoration daily. Short pauses, small walks, expressive journaling. These prevent the accrual of stress. Resilience is the compounding effect of these small acts of care. Finally, embrace humility. Resilience is not stoic suppression. It is the capacity to notice defeat without being defined by it. It includes asking for help, admitting error, and pivoting when necessary. Practice owning mistakes quickly and repairing earnestly. Ground your body, steady your story, rehearse response, and lean on trusted allies. Resilience is the discipline of returning to center under pressure. No commander thrives in isolation. Allies are force multipliers, but choosing them wisely preserves sovereignty while amplifying capacity. Allies are not merely friends, they are nodes of intelligence, critique, and resource exchange. The wise commander cultivates a small, honest circle and uses it both for counsel and for accountability. First, diversify intelligence. Seek perspectives that challenge your blind spots. Peers who think differently, mentors who have navigated similar terrain, critics who can grant clarity. Intelligence is not unanimity, it is multiplicity. Design feedback systems that are frequent, specific, and kind. Ask for one thing I did well, one thing I missed. Brevity yields usable data. Second, hold final responsibility. Counsels advise, the commander decides. Use advice, but do not outsource judgment. Keep clarity about your values and let them be the tie breaker when counsel diverges. Third, Practice reciprocal mentoring. Teach what you've learned and be taught in turn. Exchange practical gifts of attention and time. This reciprocity builds durable loyalty, not dependent on transactional gain. Fourth, shield against capture. Allies can become enablers or echo chambers. Rotate mentors, invite dissent, and have a confidant whose job is to dissent. Create rituals for honest reporting and corrective counsel, so that loyalty never substitutes for integrity. Fifth, invest in systems intelligence. Beyond people, design measurable feedback short metrics, after-action reviews and documented lessons. Intelligence aggregated over time reduces guesswork and compounds learning. Finally, attend to moral contagion. Those you spend time with change you. Choose people who model the qualities you aspire to embody. Integrity is contagious, as is cynicism. Spend your days with people worth becoming. Build a trusted circle, gather clear intelligence, accept counsel, retain judgment. Allies multiply power without stealing the crown. Inner mastery is useless if it remains private. The point of mastering the mind is to bring steadiness to the messy affairs of living. When your interior command is present, your speech becomes briefer and truer, your work steadier, and your relationships deeper. The transition from inner victory to outer influence is a translation process. It requires calibration, patience, and humility. Begin with translation by imitation. Translate calm into shorter speech, precise asks, and fewer promises. People trust the person who is steady in crisis. In work, move from frantic execution to deliberate design. Use small pilots in projects that test your new habits and produce measurable outcomes. Let competence speak through results. Avoid performance theater. In relationships, practice presence. The person who has trained attention can listen without needing to solve immediately. Presence itself is an influence. People change under the gravity of focused regard. Use your steadiness to repair patterns. Make small, consistent commitments that rebuild trust. Apologize with specificity. Keep promises. Politically and socially, translate mastery into structures. Advocate for calendars that protect deep work, training that teaches attention, and institutions that value repair. Influence at scale means designing systems that allow others to practice what you have learned. Practice modesty and influence. True leverage is quiet, a consistent life, a reliable voice, and ethical use of power. Avoid spectacle. If your interior practice is for show, it is brittle. Let influence be the byproduct of fidelity, not its aim. Finally, steward influence with a long horizon. Use it for generative ends, teaching, building, repairing, rather than for immediate credit. The true measure of translation is whether your presence leaves other people more alive and more capable. Make your interior victories the foundation of public steadiness. Speak less, act better, and let your life be the silent mechanism of change. Mastery is not merely about surviving a season, it is about shaping the soil for those who come after. Legacy thinking asks you to move beyond personal comfort and consider the architectures you will leave: schools of practice, cultural habits, apprentices, and institutions that outlast a single life. The battlefield you master today becomes the inheritance of tomorrow. Start by teaching. Teach practices of attention, repair, and modest courage to one person. Teach not by sermon but by shared ritual. Practice together, show failings and repairs, invite participation. Apprenticeship multiplies influence because it composes a lineage of practice rather than a parade of performers. Design institutions that preserve the small disciplines: reading rooms, repair councils, curricula for attention. These are the scaffolds that make practice sustainable across generations. Invest resources, time, money, mentorship into structures that endure. Write the stories you want remembered. Stories are the cultural DNA transmitted across tables and time. Share narratives of repair, of slow competency, of ethical restraint. The story forms expectations in children and neighbors. It orients behavior more reliably than exhortation. Finally, think in terms of resilience. Plant systems that can outlast shocks, diversified communities, shared backups for knowledge, ritualized archives. The future favors those who design redundancy for moral practice as much as for material goods. Legacy thinking is not passive optimism. It is a series of commitments to teach, to fund, to design, to forgive, to repair. When you arrange your life around these acts, your mastery ceases to be private virtue and becomes public architecture. Master your mind not to rule others, but to steward a world, rule the battlefield within, and, in doing so, craft a future that is kinder, wiser, and more enduring than the era that first challenged you.